Outside the Pod, a Miami Dolphins podcast. Here are your outsiders, Danny B, and Jules, Ref King.
All right, so it's episode 3. We're going to continue on from what we were talking about in episode 2, which is really the bad era of the Miami Dolphins from 1999 to current, and what's making it so bad. Specifically, this continuing episode 3, we're going to be talking about the quarterbacks. I'm sure it's everybody's favorite category or topic to talk about ever since Marino left the team. So, yeah, we're going to get to it. You know, the first one to start after Dan Marino was Jay Fiedler, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Not the worst that we've had for sure since Dan Marino. Definitely, yeah, I think what do you think? Top 5 since Dan Marino left, which is terrible to say. What do you think?
Top 5. Wow. You know, if Jay Fiedler is breaking the top 5
who do we got?
Of quarterbacks since Dan Marino. Well, let's run down all the quarterbacks and then maybe go with top 5. But man, I think he was a serviceable quarterback. You know, a game manager, not the biggest arm in the world. Smart quarterback. I mean, as smart quarterbacks go.
Yeah.
But serviceable. I mean, I think that's the best word that I could describe Jay Fiedler. But man, yeah. And we went with him a few years, right? I mean, he was starting for us for like 4 or 5 years, like something like that. But man, yeah, I don't know, man. I think, yeah, going from Marino to Jay Fiedler, that was a huge step down.
That's a drop off.
And then especially not looking for, maybe they were looking, but if you're gonna replace Marino with Fiedler, that's a huge drop off. And I would have hoped that going away from Marino, you're gonna have to look for the next one. Who is that next guy that's gonna create that same type of hype and emotion and fan base that Marino brought in? I mean, I know that's almost impossible. You know, you're talking about one of the best passers in the history. But man, when you go to Jay Fiedler, that's not even close.
Right.
So that was a, you know, huge disappointment, I would say, for a few years after that, right?
Right. I mean, and what was the other options, right? I mean, I can't remember exactly when they had opportunities, of course, with Matt Ryan, I believe, right? When they took what's the left tackle's name? Long? Was that the same year?
Jake Long.
So when they I think when they took Jake Long, they passed on Matt Ryan. I believe so. I mean, is that a mistake? What do you think? Was that a mistake on them? Matt Ryan he won. He was a winning quarterback. But Jake Long was a good tackle. What do you think?
You know, that the Jake Long pick didn't bother me that much because I'll be honest, I wasn't big on Matt Ryan then either. Mm-hmm. So that didn't maybe in hindsight you could go, well, you should have gone with Matt Ryan at that point, but so that, you know, but Jake Long pick, you know, we're talking about several years of very underperforming offensive lines,
right?
And so a Jake Long pick, I mean, what are you gonna do? That's still a good pick. And at that, when you're thinking about it, maybe not right now, but back then, I would say sure, take an offensive lineman of that caliber. You know, I wasn't mad at the pick at all.
Right, and thinking about it now, it's like if they would have taken Matt Ryan at that pick, we wouldn't have been anywhere anyways, because like you said, we didn't have a line. Matt Ryan wouldn't have had the same. What's the word I'm looking for? He wouldn't have been as good in Miami at that time than he was with the Falcons, in my opinion, right? So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, the other time was, wow, why am I just missing out on names? The other time they had another opportunity was with, from the Chargers. And went to New Orleans. Why? I mean, freaking Hall of Famer. I can't think of his name. Drew Brees. Jesus Christ.
Bro, I'm the old man. I'm the old man with the memory
my
problem.
memories
What's
are
wrong with you?
But anyway, so it was another thing with the whole medical thing with Drew Brees and kind of passing on that. That might have been a front office mistake. But again, at the same time, would he have been as successful in Miami as he was in New Orleans? I mean, think about the coaches that we just talked about last episode, right? None of those would have coached up the same teams that New Orleans had. We could
have ruined a few careers if we would have gotten this.
We would have ruined his career.
We would have ruined some careers in the process, probably. Yeah, hate to say that, but it's sad,
Ain't it? Hey, that's sad. So yeah, everybody's always crapping on that too. Like, oh, we could have gotten Drew Brees, blah 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 blah. You took Jake Long instead of Matt Ryan, but yeah, we probably would have burned those careers. Anyway, but so following Jay Fiedler was. Go ahead.
Well, then maybe Jay Fiedler could have had a better career somewhere else. He was a journeyman, right? Didn't he play for like 5-7 teams? I don't know. Before that, I don't know. But
but I mean,
who we got next?
Following that, there's a few guys that came in and out, right? Like Gus Farrow, Dante Culpepper, Joey Harrington, Cleo Lemon, all those guys that were in and out. Kind of just, like experiments. Freaking, who was it? Was it Cleo Lemon that got freaking knocked out one time? I can't remember, down the sideline. I think he like scrambled down the sideline and somebody freaking destroyed him. He was like, he fell face first, like freaking Manny Pacquiao to freaking, remember who was it that knocked him out? Mexican guy.
Juan Manuel Marquez.
Yeah, Marquez knocked him the hell out. That's what he looked like when he face first plant. Anyway, sorry, Cleo. Don't mean to crap on you like that, but yeah, just a bunch of experiments. John Beck, and then came, kind of 1 year of Chad Pennington, which we kind of talked about last episode.
Yeah, Chad Pennington. Wasn't he like? I remember him being like really, really accurate. Didn't he have like a streak going, a pretty long streak of completions or something like that, if I remember correctly? Not a strong arm at all. I think anything within 20 he was good. Anything outside of 20, forget about it. He couldn't even make it there. So yeah, but again, just a long line of experimentation with a lot of quarterbacks that other people frankly didn't want. Dante Culpepper, Trent Green also come to mind during that era.
Yeah.
And then we draft a guy after that, right? Was it Chad Henne? Didn't we draft him? Pretty sure we drafted Chad Henne right around the time.
I think it might have been our draft.
So it was the Chad experiments back in the late 2000s then.
Right. Yeah, because Chad Henne took over after Chad Pennington. But yeah, and Chad Henne was kind of like Jay Fiedler, right? Kind of, a backup quarterback for sure, but not the most terrible again that we've had. I think he may also be in the top 5 since Dan Marino. Unfortunately, he might have just made it. We'll think about it here in a little bit. We'll actually get a little list going because that's hilarious. But yeah, so Chad Henne was an experiment for about a season and a half. and in and out, right? I guess some probably some injuries here and there, but with him and Matt Moore. But yeah, I mean, same thing could be said for Matt Moore. Those are all backup quarterbacks for sure.
Yeah.
We can't really call them starting quarterbacks.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, because they would have a good start, a good game, and then suddenly they just looked like, 3 interceptions bad, that kind of thing. So it was very inconsistent play. And that's what happens when you got guys that are not, commanding the offense as well as your starting quarterback should. And everybody, I know that's not an easy thing to do. That's something that every team is trying to look for, is a quarterback that can really command the offense to respect and let that person lead you as a team, as an offense. And we just had a bunch of guys that just didn't have that command.
Right.
And again, we go back always comparing it to Dan Marino, because Dan Marino was that guy that demanded that you put in 100% every play. And when you look at the line of quarterbacks, this list of quarterbacks, you just have none of that in any. I mean, sparks here and there in spots you would have it, but no,
right,
it's lacking all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta give it up to Matt Moore. He was definitely a tryhard, right? I would say Matt Moore, out of so far of what we've talked about, was one that I'd like to have. I'm not saying that he's better than the other guys, but I like that he had a little bit of extra grit that he put out in the field, and that was at least some hope sometimes that he could get it done in certain games. But again, very inconsistent. Would have his moments. Not the greatest of arms or that good of mobility, but definitely had just a little bit more spark and I guess fire inside of him than probably the rest of them that we've talked about so far. And then, of course, following Matt Moore, we had Ryan Tannehill, which was our freaking first overall pick, not overall, but first round pick for Miami Dolphins in 2012, or 2011. 2012. Yeah, 2012. So, and what's your thoughts on Ryan?
When they first drafted, I guess he was wide receiver for a lot of his career, and I guess that brought a different perspective as a quarterback when you played other positions on the field on offense, and then you're trying to be a quarterback. I think Ryan was a good quarterback if we're doing top 5 just from not really giving it any thought. I think he's definitely top 5
for sure.
From all the quarterbacks that we've thought about, I think he's definitely there. And I think he was a good, not a splashy guy. I thought his decision making was at times really good, but there was some consistency issues there. I like that he had some mobility and maybe created some things, even though he didn't use the mobility. And this is one of the things that really, really got to me from Ryan Tannehill's game, is that he held the ball too long. And that was the one thing that just was gut-wrenchingly sad about his career with the Dolphins, is that he held the ball too long. He could have used his legs to create more. If that would have just clicked, if he would have just, half a second earlier than most of his snaps, just, take a couple steps to his right or to whatever, just get out of the pocket or something, that I think he could have had a really, really good career. And that, that's just something about quarterbacks, is that sometimes it's just that real minute difference, or that one skill that you're just missing that takes you from good to great. And I think him just holding on to the ball was his biggest weakness, especially when he was in Miami. I didn't see him enough, and of course, when we played Tennessee after that, of course, I saw Tannehill, but I didn't study him as much as I did when he was a Dolphins quarterback. But that was the biggest thing for me, is that he did not have. And again, you go back to comparing to Marino. Marino has the quickest release ever, probably, and that's a big thing. But I think when you're analyzing quarterbacks at this day and age, that's one of the big things, because you got the best athletes coming at you in a fraction of a second. They're on top of you already, and that release is key, and that's big weakness for Ryan Tannehill as far as I'm concerned.
Right. And let me throw this back at you, though, is remember the era that Ryan Tannehill was with the team, right? Could he have been something? Maybe we burned this guy's career because he kind of had the tools. I don't know if he was maybe he didn't process as fast, and that's why he was holding the ball so much. But maybe somebody didn't teach him to process that fast. You know what I mean? Like, he was in the Philbin era.
Poor guy.
You know what I mean? So, he could have been. The Titans went to the playoffs several times with him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember we talked about it in the last episode, right? How many quarterbacks could or just earlier in this episode, how many careers did we ruin just by having the coaching staff that we had? But yeah, you're probably right. He could have maybe flourished even under McDaniel. He could have flourished better than with Philbin. I would say that's 100% certain that he would probably flourish a little bit more in this offense than Philbin's offense.
Yeah, that's sad to say again. Sorry about that, Ryan. But then, of course, between Ryan and Ryan Fitzpatrick was Brock Osweiler. We don't really talk about him too much. He kind of boring, old tall dude, sorry as hell. Skip him. Ryan Fitzpatrick, between him and, he kind of you kind of threw Josh Rosen in there in between as well, between two Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Josh Rosen experience or experiment was not a good one. And I kind of had high hopes. I was hoping that, because Josh Rosen was coming out of college, was like, hey, this is the man, and he had a great touch. There was sometimes that he would throw it a nice deep ball, and I'm like, oh, that thing is freaking sweet. But
yeah, tight.
But other than that, he was Ryan Tannehill times 10 when it came to holding the ball. He would just hold the shit out of the ball, man. And what do you think about that combo, Ryan Fitzpatrick? At least the early Ryan Fitzpatrick, before he kind of stepped in for Tua.
I've always liked Fitzpatrick, but again, another very, very good backup quarterback, not a starting quarterback, or not a long-term starting quarterback that would lead you to a Super Bowl. I really like Ryan Fitzpatrick as a guy, as a person. He's he's a very unique dude.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked him as a creator.
Yeah.
He was an innovator in the pocket, somebody that just pulled something out of a hat in mid play, and that's I remember the pass, vividly when he had his helmet turned all the way around and he still completed a pass
Right.
when he couldn't see out of that thing. I mean, that impersonates, right? That right there is the personification of Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, that right there. And yeah, I really like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think it would have been cool to have him still on the team in some way, in some sort, as a coach. Even I don't know, because I like the dude. I like what he brings to the game. I think he's a good leader.
Yeah.
So having him in a quarterback room or an offensive room, I think is a good thing. He decided to go and do something in front of the microphone. But I think he could still be good for the league. He's still a young guy. Maybe could do coaching later on.
Yeah. He definitely seems like a dude that has very good ideas about how to be a better offense as a whole. Definitely, that dude did bring during that time, especially when he kind of came in and stepped in for Tua and kind of mentored Tua through the Flores years. He was tough, man. Sometimes he would just save the game, like you said with that saved the game, that pass with the helmet freaking, facing the opposite direction. He was able to, I'll never say a bad thing about Ryan Fitzpatrick because he left it all on the field for us. And I thank him for that. And, he left the game gracefully before he started, he got in front of the mic. So that's good for him. And I appreciate all his efforts for us. But from there, we kind of have a back and forth, unless you got anything else to say, but back and forth between, the early, or I guess we should break up Tua's, conversation in two separate categories, one with Flores and one with Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, a tale of two offenses, really, because I don't think Tua would have flourished at all in Brian. Well, Brian didn't want him to play it. It seemed like, and I'm talking about Brian Flores. I don't think he agreed with the pick since the beginning. We've heard, I guess, from, I don't know if there were rumors or actually true that Brian wasn't exactly, fond of having Tua as a starting quarterback or even having been picked. But, I don't think, if Flores would have stuck around, I wouldn't think he even gotten the chance to start, after the first couple seasons or season. And so thanks to McDaniel, Tua got another chance. But I don't know. Do you want to totally get into Tua's game, or how do you want to do this part?
Well, we're talking quarterbacks since Dan Marino. I think obviously Tua is part of it. There was a Jacoby Brissett thing that I don't really even want to mention in between his flow and Mike McDaniel, and then obviously him getting injured several times, and which is always scary for us as far as Tua goes. But we get into some of I guess in little detail of Tua and him. Honestly, in my opinion, and I'm sure it's the same opinion for everybody else, if we're going to make a list today following Dan Marino, no matter what anybody says at this point, and injuries aside, he is probably number one on top of that list after Dan Marino. Following Dan Marino, too, by the way.
I think I'd agree with that. I think that the Mike McDaniel pairing with Tua has certainly helped Tua in getting the ball out, in helping with his reads and that sort of thing. I worry that the system that Tua's in right now defenses will catch up to it. We already saw some of that last year where Tua's not attempting to go deep.
Yeah.
Almost at all. I mean, if you look at stats from 23 to 24, the decrease in deep ball attempts, I mean, that it was pretty substantial. And so I don't know if, just defenses are catching up to that, and you're just going to see a continued regression from Tua from this point forward. If we want to talk about his injury, man,
Which one?
it's that, well, his injuries, and I think his head injuries are the ones, right, that we're really, really
More concerned about.
Yeah, I'm really torn with this one, because NFL players, I mean, historically, they play with injuries, they gut it out, and to this day, a lot of people that have already retired, and they just have lingering effects from injuries and things like that. Some of them pretty sad, some of them even fatal. And I think Tua, one day I'll think, you know what, Tua, you should retire. And then the next day I'll be like, okay, I really respect that he is still trying to come out and do what he loves, because, yeah, an injury can take your life away. But if you love football and you can't play football, then what kind of life is that, right, if you can't do what you love? And that's the thing that the players struggle with, and I understand it completely. I think I love the game. I didn't have the athletic ability that these guys put out. So, but I totally get that feeling that if you love the game that much, then you want to play it as much as as many years as you can. And as young as you are, as young as Tua is, that can't be easy to make a decision like that. So to walk away from the game, but so I respect that, and hopefully he'll maintain health, and hopefully, first of all, maintain health, but then second, also take us to the promised land, man. I hope so, but I don't know. I'm gonna be the pessimistic one here again, but I just don't see the combination of McDaniel and Tua taking us to the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, no, I wouldn't say unfortunately, but we're stuck with Tua for a while still. Yeah, and I totally agree. Seeing his hands go the way he did when he got knocked out and all that stuff. I mean, it's not so scary for me. I've seen it many times, but at the same time, it's still knowing that it gets easier to get knocked out after the first time. It's just don't risk it. But also, like you said, he said it many times in press conferences. He loves the game. He wants to continue to play, and it's his life that he wants to put on the line, not everybody else's. But all that aside, I want to kind of throw out like our situation last year, that I was very concerned with, and it kind of turned out, well, really the last couple years, and that was our backup quarterback situations. Teddy Bridgewater was, he had fallen off a cliff from early success that he had, and then which was 2 years ago.
For real.
And then the last years, Tyler Huntley, which we brought up later, and Skylar Thompson, oh my God. I mean, that's not those are third string quarterbacks. I know everybody was all up, Tyler Huntley's going to be it. He's going to be the starter, basically. No, he's not, man. When he played, I was like, no, this dude is terrible. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there, just to kind of round out the quarterback room since Dan Marino. But yeah, anyway, I do want to, before we close this out for today, I still want to kind of get into who is the top five, since Dan Marino, and how ridiculously underwhelming this list is about to be.
I think 1 through 3 is easy. In my opinion, I think it's very clear. And I don't know how many other. Huh?
We'll spit it out.
Well, Marino, Tua, Tannehill, right?
After Marino, and just after
after
Marino.
Marino.
Yeah, just after.
Oh, just after Marino, then just the top 2 are clear. The rest is fucking.
Yeah, that's what
the rest is a coin toss. I would say Tua 1, Tannehill 2. I'd have to say you were right in the beginning. That Jay Fiedler is probably 3 on this list. And just because of he played here longer and
he went to the playoffs, did not?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
That's more than you can say for a lot of other guys.
Yeah, I know. And here's the thing. I mean, do you really want to take? I mean, I love Ryan Fitzpatrick. He only played here a very short time, and most of it as a backup.
Yeah, it was a short sample size. Yeah.
Right, but I think in just the quality of a player, I think you would have to go with him as number 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would get. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna do this. But I'm gonna have to say, dude, I'm gonna have to say Chad Pennington with a lot of question marks around it.
Yeah.
But I don't know who else I would take.
Well, yeah, and I'm in complete agreement. I think where I had number 5 in my head was I was going back and forth between Chad Pennington and Matt Moore, right? Where, but yeah, I think it's Chad Pennington. Because it's same thing with Matt Moore. Was like he was always a backup. He was never really the starting quarterback. He kind of came in because somebody got injured, or basically that's it. He was never day one. He was never like the day one starting quarterback.
Right. I think that is the difference there is that, we didn't name Matt Moore as a starter unless someone else was injured.
Right.
And Chad Pennington did come in as a starter.
That's right.
In that 2009 season, right? That's
8 and 9.
8 and 9.
Yeah.
So that's got to be the difference for me as well. I really like Matt Moore as well. He did some really great things for us backing up, but yeah, I think I got to go with Pennington on it.
Yeah. Interested to know or to hear what everybody else has to say. So for sure, for those 3 listeners that we got at this point, right, in our 3rd episode. And it's probably all like our family members, Yeah, just interested to know what you think, and definitely leave a comment. Tell us who your top 5 are after Dan Marino. This is a key statement. After Dan Marino, don't come up with Brian Greasy and all these other people. No, after Dan Marino, who are your top 5? I want to know what your
Brian Greasy was after Dan Marino. So what are we talking about here? Brian Greasy was after Dan, but he's never our starter either, right? Wasn't he?
No. I'm not talking about Brian Greasy. The other Greasy. What's his?
Oh, right. Okay.
No, I'm talking about
Bob.
Huh? Yeah.
Bob Greasy?
Yeah. Yes. Jesus Christ, bro.
No, Brian Greasy was. You mean his son? No, he was
about his son. I'm talking. See, look, I'm not old enough to remember those days, so don't get on me.
Well, I'm not either.
Back the hell up off me. Anyway, so yeah, definitely interested to know who you guys got for the top 5. But a little cliffhanger for next episode. We'll talk little bit more definitely this time. This went a little longer than we expected, but we'll talk some current events that's coming up here in the off season as of June and and going forward. So keep get you subscribed so you don't miss any of our content coming up. So appreciate everybody being here listening to us, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks up.
What's up?